Joining me now with the very latest on this, CBC's Tom Perry in London. Tom, walk us through what we've heard so far.
Well, the UN tribunal in The Hague has now delivered its verdict, and it has found Radovan Karadzic guilty of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide, and it sentenced him to serve 40 years in prison. Karadzic was on trial for his actions, as you say, as leader of the Bosnian Serbs during the Bosnian War. That war killed roughly 100,000 people between 1992 and 1995. Karadzic sat quietly in the courtroom today as the judge overseeing this case went through some of the court's findings. The court found that Bosnian Serb forces did carry out a campaign of murder and terror against civilians. It found also that Karadzic significantly contributed to these crimes. The court listed some of those atrocities committed during the Bosnian War. The shelling of Sarajevo. The court says there can be no doubt that Serb forces deliberately targeted civilians. The same with a sniper fire. The court says evidence shows that forces controlled by Karadzic targeted civilians as they walked in the street, as they fetched water. It said children were targeted as they played near their homes or walked with their parents. And on of course, the 1995 massacre at Srebrenica, the court says that Karadzic ordered the Serb takeover of the Muslim enclave. The court recounted how Muslim men were then separated from the town's women and children. The men were then executed. More than 8,000 people were killed. The court found that Karadzic had the power to stop that massacre. Instead, it says he actively took part in a plan to kill every able-bodied Muslim man in the community. Now, Karadzic, of course, was the leader of the breakaway Serb region during the conflict. He was indicted in 1995, but he spent years on the run. He was arrested in Serbia in 2008. He'd been hiding, actually, in plain sight. Karadzic had changed his appearance. He'd grown long hair and a beard. He'd forged a new identity for himself as a New Age healer. His trial in The Hague lasted about 5 years. There were nearly 500 days of hearings, hundreds of thousands of pages of documentation and evidence. This has been called the most significant war crimes trial in Europe since Nuremberg. Karadzic has consistently maintained throughout his trial that he's innocent. He says that any crimes that were committed were carried out by rogue elements and not units under his command. The court today rejecting that claim, finding him guilty, and, as I said, sentencing him to 40 years behind bars.